Forward, obviously, a little bit to here.
Yeah, we can get closer here. So good morning, everyone. We call this panel "How to Make a 12th Century City a Smart City," and we'll explain briefly how and why. I will quickly introduce myself. I'm one of the founding partners of Doing, which is the leading Italian digital agency and advisory for digital transformation, and the author of many books, and I'm also city ambassador for the city of Kyoto, Japan. And we have on stage three guests, which I will introduce, and I will leave very soon the mic to them. Antonio Mustaro from Telecom Italia, head of business development for the Expo project, and Guido Arnone, who is the chief technology officer and director of technology for Expo 2015, which is still happening until October 31st in Milano, and Antonio Bisignano, Chief of Staff to the Deputy Mayor for Transport and Environment to the City of Milan, which has had a lot of innovation recently in transportation and not only. I said how to transform a 12th century city into a smart city because Milan is not Singapore or Seoul or Dubai. It's not a city that has been recently built, so we have not had the opportunity to start from scratch or build an infrastructural platform. On the contrary, it's a city that has very, very ancient origins and Roman origins and way before, and our streets are made for horse and carriages, and they're made of stone. And wherever you dig a hole, you find historical streets or houses, and your work get blocked for that reason. It's a small city, 1.3 million people, and nonetheless, it's a world design for fashion. It's a world capital for fashion and design and many other things, and now it's the host city of Expo. And it's a city with a very strong culture. It's a business city made of marketing, made of yuppies and younger professionals, and with a strong ownership culture. It's a city of landlords and store owner and car owners, and everybody is showing and doing what they have, and this is the typical 80s culture of Milan. But its citizens have been able to change it very, very fast through social media, through mobile, through sharing economy. I will quickly introduce the main things that our guests will speak about. Milan has had very interesting cases of social media caring and dialogue with citizens. The transport company from Milan has thousands of real-time updates and answers every day, every week, every month. A real massive number, almost 1/10 of the population of Milan interacts through social media with the transport company. And here you have some examples. And so does the energy company, for example, handling energy crisis blackouts and information, and the cleaning company. And then Antonio will speak about this in a minute. And also Expo is having a very, very impactful social media dialogue with the people, how to get there, how to buy the ticket, where to go, what's the best time, how to go with kids, and lots of information. So this is a light infrastructure that has helped the city to smarten up very quickly. For mobility, we have some records. So we have a car sharing system who has the highest numbers of cars for inhabitants rate, and pretty significantly compared to other cities. So the city of "this is my Alfa Romeo" now is the city of "we just drive the car, we pick it in the street." So a cultural change brought by mobile technology, where the car sharing we designed as an agency is the first paperless car share in the world, which allowed to have a very high and quick adoption rate. And we are soon introducing scooter sharing, which is a first maybe, or very interesting. It will be launched in a few days or weeks. And the first dual station bike sharing system with e-bikes together with normal bikes, and a very high number of usage per day. And once again, the City Hall, recently the City Hall introduced payment system for parkings through a mobile app, and queuing system. This is a very interesting Italian startup, Curami, which makes a queuing app. So you take your number from your home while you're having breakfast, and you know you have 25 minutes to get there, so you skip the queue. So there's lots of things that are interesting because they are a good example of how, and there's many cities like Milan, an old city with lots of infrastructural problem, can be smart, can smarten up with live infrastructure and light technology. I will give the mic first of all to Antonio from the city mayor deputy of transport, who is the protagonist of many of these innovations and transformations. So please, Antonio.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you, MLOVE, for inviting me to this to be a speaker of this panel. First of all, some data about Milano in terms of mobility. Unluckily, we don't have a port, but I was really impressed by the presentation that the Hamburg Port Authority did, because it's really a good example of applying smart city in a port and in a situation that is really different as a normal situation city. Milan, its population of Milan is 1.3 million people, but the metropolitan area has 3.4 million, so it's quite big as a metropolitan area compared to the city. Every day, 1 million people enter in the city. The modal split in terms of mobility is 57% of public transport, 30% by car, 6% of bicycles, 7% of motorbikes. And trips per day are more than 5.6 million per day. In 2012, we changed our smart city strategy. We changed from one sectoral smart city strategy to a cross-sectoral smart city strategy. So we decided to apply the smart city in all the aspects of the administration. So not only in innovation IT, but we try to orient the mobility in administration services to citizens. So all the aspects we introduced the smart city. In terms of the sharing mobility, we give new service to the city. So we give new complementary service to the traditional one. And in terms of traditional one, we give a new experience to citizens. For example, info mobility, mobile payment, open data, and public lighting. In 2002, car sharing. In 2002, car sharing was station-based, so it was a normal car sharing. It was based with stations, so people go to the station, take the car, and do a two-way movement and come back to the car to the station. In 2013, we launched a public call. Public call was a free-floating system. So it was a public call that people go to the city, go through the city with a mobile phone or even a laptop in the house, find a car in the mobile, with the mobile phone, and go to the car, use the car, and leave the car everywhere. It's a fast reservation system. We ask to the private operator at least a fleet of 80 vehicles, and we also give requirements for the length of the car, because we don't want big cars in the city. And for private operator, we ask 1,100 euros per year for each car, and the administration give back the congestion charge center for free to every car, and a free parking in the whole territory. Those are the results after 2 years of car sharing. The total amount of vehicles is more or less 2,000. Users are more or less 250,000, more or less. 1 out of 6 citizens that have a driving license in Milan has the car sharing card. Driving rate is between 29 and 25%, as I think is the same here in Hamburg for Car2Go, for example. The reservation can be made by a mobile application or the website, as well as the car opening. Now all the company let the user open the car with the application, so directly with mobile. They don't need a card anymore. And in this month, we enlarge the area of car sharing also to the metropolitan area, to the 25 cities of Milan, that at the end we enlarge to 2 million more people for car sharing. This is a big deal, because with this enlargement, we increase the problem of management of the fleet and maintenance also of the fleet. There's a new arrival in terms of car sharing in Milan, is the car sharing 100 electric car sharing free floating. with the 150 cars. They start the service in those days. The cars have more than 100 kilometers of autonomy. And we just have 3,500 subscribers in the first 2 weeks. It's kind of a pilot experiment for us because the society needs to understand how fast they can recharge the car, because free floating system with electric and no station base has a huge problem of recharging the cars. Is a first car sharing service with variable fees. For example, women during the night from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. they don't pay the car sharing. And also another example, for example, people that wants to go to buy food in certain shop, they don't pay the car sharing. It's used to go there. Milan also is the first European city to launch a scooter sharing service. The scooter sharing service will cover 95% of the territorial of the city. It also has the same system as the car sharing service, so has a faster reservation, a fleet at least of 120 scooters. We are facing a big problem of safety because with giving people a scooter is a bit different to giving them a car. So we will train the people that wants to be trained for free for safety reasons. For example, young users, or also the user that never tried a scooter. And we have also obligatory replacement every 4 years for the scooter, so that they don't get old. And this is also a pilot experiment. Enjoy, the company that start the car sharing, will be the first one that we will introduce also the scooter sharing. And so a user can in the application he can find in the set at the same way the scooter and the cars. And last but not least, because it's the oldest service of the city of sharing mobility, we introduced in 2010 the bike sharing. Bike sharing, as Marco mentioned, our bike sharing system is the first one that has together the traditional bicycle with the electric bicycle, so the citizen can find in a station either the electrical or the traditional one, and he can decide which one use. Those are the figures, the numbers of where we arrive. We have 15,000 rents.
The slides will be published and given to the organization, so you can request them or find them and have access to information.
If you have also further questions afterwards, we can speak. New user experience for traditional services. This is our new website, mobility website. The website has many features, but 2 are the most important. The first one is that the citizens can make to the website every action that he can make to our office. So asking a parking permit, asking for disabled people, for example, special parking permit, the circulation permit. Okay, will be fast. And this is a route planner tool that it can easily, let's see if it works. It can choose the way he wants to move, and the route planner identify the best way to move. And it can also reserve a car sharing car, reserve a bike sharing. So it's a route planner that gives all the typology of moving in one ambient. This is really fast, the smart card recharging for a transportation ticket. We did an experiment also with the NFC technology to enter in the metro with the mobile. And we also introduced the SMS ticket for metro and overground, underground and overground system of public transport. This one is the last one example about public transport. Is the ticket with the QR code reader. We introduced in May. And we installed these new equipments in 2 entrances and 1 exit per station in the underground system. In the first month, the first month was May, and we did 20,000 QR code tickets, so it's quite appreciated by citizens. Then we have mobile parking ticket, and the last one is public lighting. We change all the 140,000 lights we have in Milan with LED technology. It gives us an electric consumption reduction of minus 52%, and a saving of money for expenditure of 31%. So this one is the last one was the open Wi-Fi, but Marco maybe.
Yes, and thank you, Antonio. And one more element: all of this basically happened in 3 years' time, in a very, very short time. So the acceleration of the introduction of smart technologies in Milan has been really quick. For many reasons, for new political administration reasons, and also for the upcoming or happening in now event of Expo, which was forecasting and is leading to Milan millions and millions of new peoples coming to visit the Expo. They're all taking the smart transport solutions to visit the Expo site, which is at 10-20 kilometers outside the city center, but very reachable thanks to all of these systems. And we have Guido Arnone, the Expo CTO. I will give you the clicker, who can tell us a little bit how technology is managing the people and the Expo site.
So thank you, Marco, and thank you, everybody, for coming. So let me first give you an introduction on what is the Expo of Milano. So in the 3 years while all these things were happening in Milano, we were also alongside building a new site, a new area where we are now having the Expo. Expo is open the 1st of May, and it's going to stay open for 6 months until end of October. A couple of figures. Is one of the smallest Expo in terms of size of the last years. Is 1.1 square kilometer. Shanghai was 4 square kilometer. And but having said that, is one of the most crowded because we have already more than 130 countries participating, and we have 53 countries building their own pavilions, which is the highest number for all the Expo. And we expect 20 million visitors, which is much less than Shanghai. Shanghai was more than 70 million, but as I said, in a pretty small area with a lot of construction site. What is interesting at the Expo Milan is also that it's the very first Expo with a digital dimension, which is a key component of the proposition. If you go back to Shanghai, the iPhone was just launched, iPad was not yet available. Every day, everybody has a way to interact through this digital media with the Expo, with the content. So we realized that there was a digital dimension to exploit. Now, this is a rendering of the site, which is north-west of Milano, well connected. And as you can see, the site has been constructed along 2 main axes, the Decumano, which is 1.5 kilometer, where all the pavilions are facing, and the Cardo, which is about 600 meters, which is the Italian participation. Now, when we come to our technology framework, our focus was the visitor experience. So how we can create a solution, how we can introduce smart technologies to help visitors to have, let's say, an engaging experience. So we started 2 projects. The first one we call Digital Smart City, which is focusing on the exposition site itself. So the solution we're using to build the site, the solution we're using for participants, for Expo, as well as for visitors, and then how all these solutions are delivered through digital assets towards the visitors. So these 2 projects, let me give you a brief introduction. So as you've seen in the introduction, Milan is a pretty old city, and once you face smart city projects, legacy is a big issue. Now, we had an opportunity to build a new site from scratch. So we started from a green field, and we projected a smart city like you would do in Far East when you build a new city, which is pretty unique opportunity in Europe. And to do that, we basically designed our services in 5 layers, which I go briefly to that. Energy, with all the solution to feed the pavilions, to provide a smart grid, a smart lighting, a smart metering solution. So the ICT, and in particular, we have a 200-kilometer dedicated optical fiber network. We have 4G coverage with dedicated coverage. We have, as I was mentioned before by Cisco, open Wi-Fi network available to all the users and so on. Then we have a safety security, which is an important area with all the access control, the Internet of Things applied to cameras, to monitoring of the site. And all of that, you will see later on in the next presentation, is controlled by a common command control center. We have a layer 4, which is dedicated to the visitors. We call it edutainment, and we are applying all the infrastructure solution to deliver application and engage tools for the visitors. And a more traditional service area, a couple of things. We have electric mobility solution inside the exposition site to move people around, and we have a dedicated NFC payments network wherever you go, you can pay with your mobile phone or a credit card, NFC enabled on all the point of sales. Now, these are some of the examples of the solution. What is important is the opportunity to project a smart city from scratch, from a green field, gives you this layer approach, but more important is an opportunity for you to integrate vertically all these services to provide a more rich solution for the visitors and for the participants. So why smart? So for us, smart has 3 dimensions. So you look at a smart service, so a way to deliver new service, new solution. You look at economic aspect, so how you can make the same things with we say a more economic safety approach. An example, we decided to use for fiber optics a GPON technology where fiber optics are shared through many users. So the number of fibers we have to deploy and the number of switches we have to deploy was much lower than if you would use a standard technology. And of course, the sustainable dimension. So any smart service for us, it has to have either a service layer or an economic component on a sustainable component. And we're measuring it. We have introduced a project with our partners called Smartainability, where actually we are looking at technology, the functionality and the benefits against 5 dimensions, and we are trying to give a real score, how smart is the solution compared to a more traditional approach, or even introducing some methodology to measure it, because in some cases we refer to established methodology, in other cases we are looking at new approaches and benchmarking them. And this is a report available if you are interested. Now, another interesting dimension of the Smart City of Expo is that most of it has been done with a private investments. Expo has collected 370 million euro from private sector, and about 150 million is value in kind, so solution and services provided by the partners to build the Smart City for technology projects. And this is, for instance, sorry, this is, how can I go back? Here. This is, for instance, the list of partners that are part of the project, and in our industrial plan is the second largest contribution to our revenue after tickets is the contribution from the private sector. As you can see, there are a lot of brands which are technology brands. Let me come to then to the digital experiences. How all of that then translated towards consumers and towards visitors. So in our digital experience, we focused on several areas. The first one was the online experience. 30th of April, we launched 3 projects last year. We launched 3 projects, which was a website with the service of ticketing, booking, possibility to redeem an open ticket to select a date of visit, and a set of services to plan your visit. And we introduced alongside one magazine, which is a digital magazine on the theme of Expo, which is Feeding the Planet Energy for Life, and a world recipe site, which in the English version, we have already collected 200,000 recipes for all international countries. In the semester now, we are running instead 3 more events-oriented sites, in particular the visit, all the events, and the experience, which are a collection of point of interest and events delivered to you in a sort of thematic itinerary. So if you want to come to Expo, you are interested on a children experience, you will find all the offer there available. Some data, we had a huge increase, of course, with the opening, plus 80%, with 11 million sessions, 7 million visitors, 48 million page views, which will put the Expo digital sites between 150 to 200 in Italy in terms of ranking. In a very short time frame, as I said, it was launched 1 year before. The same experience we deliver through mobile. So we think content is liquid, so you have to deliver the same kind of experience also in the mobility. We have free application, an official guide, a word recipe application, and a magazine are available for iOS and Android. And even the case we're measuring now from 1st of May, so was the very first 6 weeks, 7 weeks of operation. We have 700,000 active users, so people that downloaded and actually used it, with 4.1 million page view, session, 8.3 million page view. This is only for the official guide. Now you have also the recipe and the magazine providing you. Let's come to the on-site experience. In-site, we have implemented a dedicated digital signage and interactive totem network, which is all linked to the same digital assets, with about 90 touch points, providing info point, wayfinding, video, and promotional advertising, which is also one of the components of our revenues. And we have also 14 e-walls with video application. They are all interactive, and a live streaming event. For instance, when there was the Champions League, we broadcasted on all the e-wall the semi-final and the final match. Semi-final was better, the result, but that's a matter of fact. Some numbers about our social engagement, which is a key component also to close the circle on our digital. We have, now it's 1.7 million, I just checked this morning, Facebook like, and also in the case in about 1 year of activity, pretty much engaging on Twitter. You Ask Expo as a dedicated channel delivered by Twitter towards Expo in sponsorship, and we have more than 500,000 followers on our account. So altogether, this dimension gives us an idea that once you have a smart city solution, once you can project a smart city from scratch, and then bring all this service towards a consistent proposition toward the customer, then you get the results, then you get the usage, then you get the engagement. If you want, you can visit Expo, even from here. We have launched, alongside our digital projects, a virtual and immersive tour.
It would be nice to test it with the VR gear that we have outside. We might make it possible. We'll speak later.
Exactly. And we're also virtual for
this afternoon you can visit the Expo here behind, just 2 minutes away.
No, we have actually a version also of the Expo done for Gear VR, together with Samsung and the partner, which is Dassault, doing the virtual tour. Is a snapshot of it. What you see in the massive is actually the whole site. So, and we are now taking pictures of the internal part of the pavilions, because one of the problems that every expo is lost. After you have, either you go there, you visit it, or it's lost. There is no memory of the last expo. But we want to give a sort of remembering what was the Expo Milano. So we have already 3 pavilions from internal part, all covered, which is Swiss pavilion, Slovakia. We are working on Oman and France. So, but our approach here is we want to digitalize the whole event, and have so that even in 5 years from now you could revisit and see all what was the Expo of Milano. This is already live, and you can see. If you type immersive, you will be from mobile rerouted to virtual. If you type, if you have a PC, actually you see a sort of gaming-like experience, so a 3D gaming experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Guido. Guido and Antonio will be with us at lunch, so they're open for networking and connecting. So imagine handling 15 million people coming to a site, but imagine handling 15 million people from a telco point of view, with their smartphone arriving and handling that mass as an impact on the telecommunication systems. Antonio is the guy. Antonio is from Telecom Italia and is responsible for the Expo project.
I'm from Telecom Italia, and I'd like to present what we've done for Digital's life. First of all, some numbers, because I think that is very important. 2% of the population are in the urban, 2% of the planet are covered by cities, but 50% of the population lives in the smart city. 70% of energy is consumed inside the city, but 80% of the CO2 is consumed inside the city. So this is very important for us to understand why the city is very important and why we have to put very attention to these 4 pillars like inclusion, knowledgement, quality of services for the city, and the enhancement of the territory and the cultural and sustainability activity inside the territory. So it's very important. This is the model that everyone knows about smart city, all the application, 3 items that are very important. All the smart application that everyone know, the infrastructure that if you talk about telecommunication infrastructure are ICT, cloud, broadband, and big data. But very important inside is the computer operating center, that is the brain that have to connect and to manage all these applications. For this reason, Telecom Italia has developed a big platform that take care about this necessity, starting from infrastructure, cloud, and application. These are all the applications that we provide for our customers. But the biggest customer for Telecom Italia in 2015, and I greet Mr. Arnone because he presents very well what we have done in Expo, jointly with the other partner, is the fact that we have invested 43 million in these events, and we are also ticket reseller for Expo, and we have invested also 10 million for communication because it's very important to let the people understand what we've done for Expo 2015. We have realized in Expo, especially all the sites with more than 300 fiber network and more than 300 servers for realizing the cloud applications. The full coverage for LTE mobile networking, and more than 1,500 Wi-Fi spots. So it's very great, the application that we have developed for Expo. And also we provide application and infrastructure for the pavilions that we have to guarantee the connection between them and between the country that they are come from. In order, as was Mr. Arnone saying, we provide also all the digital experience with the realization of the portals, mobile application, and digital signage. And this is the main framework of Expo. One of the biggest important part of this framework, in addition to the sites, in addition to the digital life, the common center of control, the virtual private network, and the campus, is the extended Expo. For Telecom Italia, in order to contribute to develop the digitalization and the concept of digital life all around the country, is to let all the companies know what we have done for Expo. So this project, Extended Expo, has the main goal to let all the company, the Italian company, know what we have done in Expo. We have another company called Sparkle, that is an international company, that is doing the same for the international companies. This is one of the main projects that I've talked before, but for me it's very important another concept. When we talk about smart city, we talk a lot about sharing, and sharing is very important because bike sharing, car sharing, food sharing, also hotel sharing, but never we have found in Italy and Europe the possibility to share the tablet and the internet. So every visitor coming inside the Expo has the possibility to share the tablet, to share all information including the tablet, and to share also the possibility to share the internet connection with a friend that are visiting the exposition. And this is not only something that we can do inside the Expo, but it's possible to extend this experience also outside the Expo and in other applications all around the country. This is the pavilion, the Italian pavilion, and this is all the application that we provide for all the pavilion, technological, ICT services. And this is the layer very similar to the layer that Mr. Arnone has presented, in which it's clear that Telecom Italia was present in infrastructure, ICT network, dedicated network, control room, and smart application. But for me, the very biggest importance for a smart city, it is not only the infrastructure, it is not only the smart application that everyone is able to understand, but it's the control and command and control center. We have developed an infrastructure very important, made by 100 people engaged and more than 300 servers in cloud. And this is very important because we realize the control of every event that is happening inside the Expo. First of all, we have the first part of this platform that is made by analytic and correlation platform software that permits to put together with a big data organization all the events that is happening. For example, if you have some problem in an ATM machine, it doesn't mean that there is a problem in the ATM machine. Probably the problem is related to the router. And so this infrastructure, this software is able to understand what's happening. The second important part of this platform is the possibility to, as a predictive analysis of what is happening. The predictive analysis permitted to understand, starting from some phenomenon, for example, the parking, a congestion in a parking, a congestion in a highway. This is a statistical algorithm that permits to understand what is going to happen inside the city, inside the Expo, or inside the city. So this is something that is very similar is very easy to replicate for the other cities and the other public companies. At the end, a dashboard, a logbook that is able to understand and to present to the operator what's happening inside the exposition. And this is very important, the big data for me, because in particular during the Expo we have a lot of partners that provide a lot of different services, so a lot and heterogeneous services that the big data is able to manage. Another big important application that Telecom Italia jointly with the Expo and with Polytechnic of Milano has realized is the 015. I can call the 015 a data sharing, just to use the sharing as a very known word when we talk about smart city, because we have the possibility to share all the data. A lot of providers put data inside this portal, this server, and all the companies and the service provider can develop service and application using the data. For example, ATM, for example, information about parking, about the rolling station, about airplane. And this was developed for Expo just to understand how to manage all these facts. And I think that this could be one of the most important legacy that we should like to leave for the next generation and for the improving of the digitalization of our country. These are some maps that is possible to see from the dashboard of the SCQ, the Central Command and Control. And I really think that with this kind of application, we are really able to realize the model of the smart city. And I really think that Expo 2015 is one of the most important smart cities that Italia has realized from now. Thank you very much. If you have some problems.
Thank you. Thank you, Antonio. And actually, Milan, now I invite Harald to come on the stage. Milan, it's interesting because we were speaking at breakfast with Guido this morning, has been kind of also the first smart city. Leonardo da Vinci has the longest of his life lived and operated in Milano, and he designed a canal system and an access system which is still operating, which and it's been also renewed and in some parts now. So I'll invite you to visit us in Milano, really, and I don't know if you want to have some time for questions, but I want to say one last thing. Guido and Antonio are here also for networking, and I think you can ask them questions even in the break or at lunch. And Guido is a perfect access point for you for Expo for the next few months. And Telecom Italia is the best access for Italy as a technology platform, as a business platform. So you can speak about this with Antonio. And I think no better person than Antonio Bisignano, which is smart and tech savvy, for having a contact point for the city of Milan, which is open for business and innovation. So thank you all, and thanks for having us.
Thank you. No, you keep the microphone. I'm really glad that you're here, because I thought this is a super impressive story. I mean, first of all, working everything together, and as you said, that this is like the operation on the open heart. You have this medieval, beautiful city, and all the, let's say, fashion and everything hip and cool happening, and great food, and that's the topic of the Expo as well. But really bringing all this technology in as a state of the art, I think you are the showcase of what smart cities are about right now, I guess. Or our whole smart life. I mean, this is so complex. I think you need almost a day to really digest this. And I think, I mean, I want to go beginning of August probably. So whoever wants to join me,
we're waiting for you.
We go to Milan and I want to see this. I mean, this is amazing. I'm really also a fan of Expo, but this combined in a city like yours, I think it's cool. Has anybody questions? I think this is maybe a good opportunity for one or two questions, and then we go have a break, and there's more time. Greg, yes.
Hi, Greg DeLon with UIX Global. I'm wondering, in terms of the infrastructure and the new techniques that you'd be using to connect people within the Expo site, are there plans to diffuse that throughout the rest of Italy with the new practices and best practices that you're creating? How is that going to manifest itself in the different regions, different cities of Italy after the Expo?
Yes, we are. And actually, one thing that maybe we didn't touch in detail was the fact that some of the projects we have implemented in the Expo site was also implemented in the city in the same time. For two reasons. First, because of synergic and opportunity. Like the Cisco invested, for instance, in the Wi-Fi in the area of Expo, but also invested in the Wi-Fi in the area of Milano. And the second, because we need to stage most of the solution, the most advanced solution in a real environment. And for instance, what we did, we installed our totem in the digital island of Comune di Milano, by the way, done by Telecom Italia. So already you have some solution deployed within the Expo site that have been used in the area of Milano. And then we have created special projects to extend this solution run by Telecom Italia. There is a web portal called Extended Expo, where actually the best practices are also promoted towards a different area. Within that, anyhow, there are two areas of legacy, let me use this word. The first one is actually the solution that are used, which actually is a best practice and can be reused. But the second is the governance model and the fact that the private sector and the public sector have been able to work together in a synergistic approach, and we have been able, as public, to get 150 million investment from the private sector. And this is the second, so which is an important legacy in how a governance approach from day one can help you in actually getting to the result and having a smarter solution. So this, I would say, the two legacies.
I have one question, is how far, let's say, how early did you start planning this? And so how many years back? And
there was a slide that for reason of time we removed, but we started in 2009 with a really dossier, submission of the dossier of participation.
Wow.
I would say what has been implemented was already defined in terms of high-level services in 2011. And the first partner coming on board was actually Telecom Italia, which was awarded with public tender end of September 2011, and the concept of the project of the smart cities were already done. The layer we introduced in 2012, because when we realized that there were many partners coming on board, we had to rationalize their contribution. So we decided to introduce layers and to give a sort of leadership to each layer to specific partners, like ICT is Telecom together with Accenture for the application. Security is Finmeccanica, which is an Italian company working on the security aspect. Right. Energy is Enel, which is another partner. So the layer approach came a little bit afterwards, more to rationalize the projection. But it started really in 2010, 2009.
And my last question is, do you feel that you are smart enough for the next 5 years, or do you have to, is your platforms, let's say, so liquid that in the next 2 or 3 years you add on new technology, because this exponential curve of innovation is obviously not stopping, it's just really expanding.
Really ready, and we are start to talk with the next Expo, jointly with the provider that we are going to work for the next Expo. And I think that also Expo has been contacted from the new organization to give the best practices.
Which is about Internet of Things, the theme, and empowerment of city through. So but let me add another dimension. Milan is a leading and trend-setting city. Of course, in Italy, all the fashions and what happens in Milano is then a model for the other public administration and cities. But not only there, we host one of the most important fashion weeks in the world. really one of the top 2 or 3 with all the fashion system coming from all over the world. And we host maybe the most important design. Milano Design Week is probably the most important design event in the world, with all the design community coming to Milano. So we have lots of opportunities to use the expertise and the knowledge and the team and the skills that came up with Expo for these events and to spread them through these events. And also, thanks for inviting us today.
I can say just one bit. More than 150 companies has reproduced the same best practices realized for Expo. Italian company, and what we are doing also for international company, because Telecom Italia has a company called Sparkle that work in all the country, also in Dubai. So we really hope that we will be able to replace this good experience for made in Expo.
Awesome. I think we are following a trend. Yesterday we had like Malmö as a sort of small city making innovations in a smaller scale. Now we have Milano, also sort of a second city, but a first city in fashion, and now as one of the smartest areas and economic development in the world. And we have Hamburg, maybe also as a second city and bringing innovation together. I see a trend here. And I see sun is outside. We need a break. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
This was
everybody.
amazing.